So let's complete the topic we're having on the short-term decision. Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
Yeah, it is
Yes,
up.
sir.
All right, then. Thank you. So, quickly, so far under short-term decision, we have talked about deleting of a segments. Last week, we completed the make or buy decisions. So today, we are going to have acceptance or rejection of a special order. So quickly, let's look at that together within the next 1 hour or thereabouts. Now, one thing you need to understand in relation to acceptance or rejection of a special order is the fact that two things are very common in this subtopic. One is the fact that the company has spare capacity for it to be able to undertake additional responsibility from a customer. Meaning that when you say a company has spare capacity, meaning that the company is not operating at full capacity, there are idle space, there are idle capacity within the company's facilities. So it is expected that the company will utilize the idle facility or the idle capacity to execute a special order. That's one thing you need to know. Then two, the price that will be quoted for the special order is usually below the company's normal market price for its products. Say, for example, if the company's product is 10 naira per unit, customer may be offering 8 naira. So those are the two things you need to take into consideration. Therefore, what do you understand by special order? What do you understand by special order? So the special order is a one-off customer order that may be accepted or rejected depending on whether an organization has a spare capacity to undertake it, and the price of which is usually put below the company's normal price. When you talk about special order, it is believed that the company is operating below the installed capacity level. That is, the company is not fully utilizing the resources, so they have spare capacity. Therefore, it is believed that the company will undertake the special order using the spare capacity. Say, for example, a company that has capacity to produce 10,000 units, and the company is currently producing 6,000 units. That means the company has spare capacity of 4 units. So that 4 units, the company is not doing anything with it. It's not producing anything. So it's idled. There is spare capacity. So that means the facility is not fully utilized. Therefore, when there is a special order to produce, say, for example, 3,000 units from the customer, so it is expected that the company will utilize the spare capacity of 4 units that is available to execute the special order. Out of that 4, they will use 3 to execute the special order. Now, if the company's final product's normal price is about 20 naira, for example, customer may be offering the company that they are going to pay 15 naira. So that is, in summary, what acceptance or rejection of a special order is all about. However, the most important thing to do under acceptance or rejection of a special order is to compare the revenue from the special order versus the relevant cost of making or of producing the special order, whether it will generate additional profits or loss to the organization. It is also possible that company may want to determine the minimum price to quote for the special order. For this purpose, there will be nothing like profit or loss. The intention of the company will be to determine the relevant cost of making the special order. So there are two ways examiner can test you under acceptance or rejection of a special order. If in the question, you are given revenue or contract price from the special order, and there are other underlying costs. So it means that the company wants to determine profit or loss associated with the special order. But if in the question, all you can see are costs. So what that means is that the company, examiner wants you to determine the relevant costs associated with the special order. So all your principles you have learned under relevant costing will still apply. So that's basically what this topic is all about. However, if, of course, anything you want to do under special order, you are going to examine it in two angles: the economic angle and the qualitative factor. So under the economic angle, I've already said this before, the most important thing you need to do is just for you to compare. You carry out incremental analysis by comparing the sales from the special order versus the relevant cost of making the order, okay, of making the special order, whether it will produce additional profit or loss to the organization. All right, that's what you need to do in this case. So, of course, this is the formats that you can use to prepare your acceptance or rejection of the special order. The first item will be the sales value, okay? You have to note that whatever you want to do under special order must be for the purpose of the special order. The revenue from the special order versus the all associated costs, all relevant costs associated with the special order. Anything that is not related to the special order should not be considered at all. That is what you need to do under special order. Therefore, you go to the question, you go and pick the sales value. If sales value is not given to you, you are going to be given selling price. For example, you are going to be given selling price that you multiply with number of units that will be sold on the special order. So you get your sales, you post, then you need to determine relevant cost of making the special order. The direct material, you multiply the direct material cost per unit with the number of units you want to produce for the special order. So you post labor cost per unit, you multiply with number of units to be produced for the special order. You post direct expenses per unit, you multiply with the number of units to be produced on the special order. Variable production overhead, do the same thing. Variable production overhead per unit, you multiply with number of units for the special order, then you post. Any other cost that is directly related to the special order, you need to include it. For example, you can have direct, incremental, specific, attributable fixed cost that relates to the special order. You put it there. It may well be that the company will incur transportation cost, or what we also call a freight cost, as a result of the special, to deliver the special order. So if the company will incur transportation costs to deliver the special order, then you also need to include transportation costs. But in most cases, the transportation cost may not be there. Not only that, any other relevant cost that you have in the question that's related to the special order, you include it. You add all of them together, then you less from sales. So you can either have profit or loss. Okay? So at this point, you need to make a decision. So the decision rule is that if the special order will produce additional profit to the organization, then it should be accepted. But if the special order will result to loss to the organization, then it should be rejected. Okay? So that is the decision rule. However, like I mentioned, If in the question you don't have anything like sales or contract price, okay, all the only thing that you have are just the only things that you have are cost. So it may well be that the company wants to, examiner wants you to determine minimum price to quote or relevant cost for the special order. So in that case, you need to apply the principle, or the principle of relevant costing are what you are supposed to apply for you to be able to determine which of the costs given to you are relevant, which one are not relevant, and you state your assumption, all those things that we have done in the past. So it will also happen under acceptance or rejection of a special order. So that's that. Then what are the qualitative factors you need to take into consideration? Remember, I told you ab initio on this topic. Anything you want to do under short-term decisions must be examined critically using economic and then using economic angle as well as the qualitative factors. Therefore, what are the specific qualitative factors for acceptance or rejection of a special order? One thing you need to consider is that there are some questions that management will need to provide answers to. Number one of them is the fact that, is it certain that fixed cost will remain constant within the relevant range? Because the company has already incurred fixed cost, and that fixed cost is not being charged, is not charged to the special order, because it is believed that whether the company executes the special order or not, the fixed cost will be incurred, provided your fixed cost will not change. So we said the fixed cost is irrelevant. However, management will need to confirm if it is certain that fixed cost will remain constant, that is, fixed cost will not change within the relevant range. So if fixed cost will change as a result of undertaking the special order, the change in fixed cost must be considered as part of the cost of the special order. Then number two factor you need to consider is the fact that, is there any alternative ways of utilizing the spare capacity instead of the special order? There may be a more profitable, another way of utilizing the spare capacity, okay? There may be a better way of utilizing the spare capacity instead of the special order. So all this, you also need to consider that, okay? So again, the company may want to know whether lowering the selling price will attract other customers to want to quote for the order as well. So lowering the price, you want to know whether lowering the price will attract other customers to quote for the order, or to want to buy the product, or to want to order for the product. So all of these factors are what you need to take into consideration. All right. So that is for that. So the next thing we need to do is to have illustrations. To have illustration. If I'm able to solve two illustrations, I'll be fine. I will solve one illustration for where there is sales, then I will solve another illustration where there is no sales value, so that in case you see any of the two on the day of your exam, you will not struggle. Okay, so let's take it one by one. If possible, how many illustrations do we have here, Seth? So we have 3 illustrations there. So if you cooperate with me within the next 1.5 hours, we can complete the 3 illustrations. So let's go in there. So who will help us to read this?
Hello, sir.
Thank you, Tifa. Talk to me.
Okay, sir. Yes, I want to read it, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Concom Below Limited receives a special order to supply 2,000 units to Lagbaja. The order will utilize the available AIDU facility that was purchased 6 years ago. At the time of receiving the order, the net book value of the AIDU facility is 2 million naira, while the market value is 1.2 million. If the machine is utilized for executing the order, its market value will drop to 1 million naira. The order will take 2 months to complete. The order will require material ABC bought for 150,000 naira 4 years ago. It is identified that material ABC can also be put into an alternative use at a cost of 60,000 naira, while the current market value is nil. The order will require 4 casual workers at a monthly remuneration of 8,000 naira each, and the service of a supervisor that currently earns 40,000 naira per month. The supervisor is to utilize 60% of his normal time in working to execute the order. Management ascertains that the business will suffer a monthly contribution of 80,000 naira if the supervisor is to transfer 60% of his working time in executing the new order. The supervisor is equally to be paid a monthly bonus of 10,000 naira because of the additional effort needed to achieve on-time delivery. At present, monthly maintenance cost is 25,000, while that of administration is 20,000 naira. If the order is accepted, the two costs will increase to 35,000 and 20,000 naira respectively. Required: A. Determine the minimum price to accept for the order. B. State the basis you adopted for your computation. Show all workings.
Thank you very much, Tife. So that is the question. That is the question. So you can see from the requirements, examiner is asking you to determine minimum price to accept for the special order. So you want to determine minimum price. Basically, what examiner is expecting you to do in this question is to calculate relevant costs for the special order. So if that is the case, without wasting more time, please open the question at your own hand. So let me switch to the working notes so that quickly we can solve this question and move to the next one. Okay. So let me know if you can see my screen. Let me change this
Yes,
one.
sir.
Thank you. Let me check this one to, okay, we're still on that short time. Yeah, so it's correct. So the name of this company is Conco Below. Limited. So in the A part of the question, examiner is asking us to determine minimum price to accept for the order. So I would then say number A. If I like, I can say determination of minimum price. Or I can just simply say minimum price. So I would then go back to the question. Let's go and read the scenario one by one, paragraph by paragraph. From the first paragraph, Conco Below Limited received a special order to supply 2,000 units to Dabaja. The order will utilize available hydro facility that was purchased 6 years ago. At the time of receiving the order, the net book value of the hydro facility is 2 million naira, while the market value is 1.2 million. If the machine is utilized for executing the order, its market value will drop to 1 million naira. The order will take 2 months to complete. Now, let us digest this scenario and then pick the variables that we need. In this particular scenario, examiner has told you that this idle facility was purchased 6 years ago. However, the book value of the idle facility is 2 million naira. That 2 million naira, I want to ask you guys, is it relevant or irrelevant? If you know it, please raise your hand. Don't talk, just raise your hand, then you provide the answer. The 2 million naira of the idle facility, is it relevant or irrelevant? I'm asking you. Amon, please talk to me.
It's still relevant, sir, because it's a sunk cost.
It's a sunk cost. It's irrelevant. So the book value is historical cost. Therefore, it's not relevant. We ignore the 2 million. Now, we are now told that the market value of the idle facility is currently 1.2 million naira. However, if the machine is utilized for executing the order, the market value will drop to 1 million. How do we treat this information? If you know it, please raise your hand. How do we treat it? The market value of the idle facility. How do we treat that information? Yes, anybody? Yes, Kunle, talk to me.
Yes, sir. If we decide to execute the order, then the difference between the market value and the drop which is 1.2 million minus 100,000 will be relevant in that case, which is
Okay.
200,000.
Yes, that's 200,000. You are correct. You are correct. The current market value of the idle facility is 1.2 million. However, because the idle facility will be utilized to execute this special order, the market value will drop to 1 million naira. So how much has the special order utilized from the machine? That is 1.2 million minus 1 million, which is 200,000. Therefore, let's go and post it. So I would then say idle facility. Idle facility, which is 1.2 minus 1 million, 200,000 naira. That's the portion utilized by the special order. So remember, you have to state your assumption. Why did you ignore 2 million? Why did you ignore 1 million or 1.2 million? All of this, you have to account for them when you are stating your assumptions. Then number next, the second paragraph.
Can you explain this again?
Who is speaking? I said if you want to talk, you raise your hand. Don't talk randomly. Who is speaking? Yes? Who has the question? Talk to me.
I do forbid.
Who? What's the name, please? Is that Priska?
No, sir, I'm not the one.
Okay. So who is the person that has the question to explain again? Anyway, let me just go straight to the point. Now, the issue is that the idle facility, the worth, if this idle facility is to be disposed now, the company will earn 1.2 million naira from the disposal. However, we're now told that if the machine is utilized for executing the order, the market value will drop to 1 million. Because of this special order, the value has dropped by 200,000. Therefore, that 200,000 is a relevant cost you must consider for this on the special order. That's what we have done. We are just lessing the 1.2. We less 1 million from the 1.2. Abubakar, Yusuf, talk to me.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can we also call this 200,000 opportunity cost?
It's not an opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is a benefit forgone. So it's not an opportunity cost. It's just a reduction in value.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so the second paragraph. The order will require material A, B, C, bought for 150,000 naira 4 years ago. Please, if you know how to treat this information, raise your hand, don't talk. So we have material A, B, C that was bought 4 years ago at 150,000 naira. Please talk to me. This 150,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Yes. Joy is saying that it's not relevant. Joy, why is it not relevant? Joy, why is it not relevant? Provide the answer. Kunle?
I
Yes.
think it's not relevant
Why?
because it's a sunk cost, or should I say an historical cost? Because it was purchased 4 years ago.
So you
For
are
that.
correct. You are correct. It's a past cost. It's a sunk cost, therefore irrelevant. So move on. It is identified that material A, B, C can be put into an alternative use at a cost of 60,000 naira, while the current market value is nil. This 60,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? If you know it, please raise your hand. The 60,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Raise your hand if you know the answer. Yes, Kunle, talk to me.
Yes, sir. The 60,000 naira is relevant since the order would require it. And we are told that it can be put to alternative use at the cost of that 60,000 naira. So it's relevant in this case.
Okay, so you are correct. The material ABC, the alternative use of material ABC is relevant. So I will come here, material. Toluwani, why now? ABC, 60,000 naira. Sorry, let me reshare this material. Somebody has clicked on something that is showing. Let me reshare again. Okay, you can continue now. Yes, so let's move to the next one. The third paragraph. You are told that the order will require 4 casual workers at a monthly remuneration of 8,000 naira each, and the service of a supervisor that currently earns 40,000 naira per month. The supervisor is to utilize 60% of his normal time in working to execute the order. The management ascertained that the business will suffer a monthly contribution of 80,000 naira if the supervisor is to transfer 60% of his working time in executing the new order. The supervisor is equally to be paid a monthly bonus of 10,000 naira because of the additional effort needed to achieve on-time delivery. Therefore, I'm now asking you, the 8,000 naira, the monthly remuneration of 8,000 naira for the casual workers, is it relevant or irrelevant? If you know it, please raise your hand. Yes. Yes, Amand. Talk to me.
The 8,000 naira for the number of casual workers is a relevant cost.
I didn't get that. Take it again. The line was breaking.
So the 8,000 naira for the casual workers is a relevant cost.
Irrelevant or relevant?
Relevant.
Relevant. Okay, it is true. The 8,000 naira, because they are casual workers. Yes. They are the ones that will be directly involved on the special to produce the special order. So it's like a daily pay. So it's relevant. Therefore, examiner has told you that at a monthly remuneration of 8,000 naira each. So in this case, you are going to multiply the 8,000, you multiply by 4 casual workers, then with the duration of the contract. The contract is for 2 months. Therefore, I will then call me casual workers. Monthly remuneration of 8,000 naira, multiplied by 4 workers, multiplied by 2 months of the period, 2 months for the period of the contract. So bring out your calculator.
64,000.
64,000. That's that. So let's move to the next one. Yes, still on the same paragraph. You are now told that on the service of a supervisor that currently earns 40,000 naira per month. So that supervisor cost of 40,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Relevant, Kunle, talk to me. Relevant or irrelevant?
Irrelevant, sir.
Why is it not relevant?
Yes, whether the project is undertaken or not, we must pay the supervisor his monthly salary. So it's irrelevant.
Correct. You are correct. That's the main reason. That's the main reason. Irrespective of the decision taken on the special order, the supervisor must be paid. Therefore, the 40,000 naira is irrelevant. So further, The supervisor is to utilize 60% of his normal time in working to execute the order. Management ascertained that the business will suffer a monthly contribution of 80,000 naira if the supervisor is to transfer 60% of his working time in executing the new order. Okay, that 80,000 naira of monthly contribution, is it relevant or irrelevant? Amon, you are the first to raise hand. Talk to me.
It's irrelevant, sir.
Relevant or irrelevant?
Irrelevant.
Why is it not relevant?
Because the man is operating below capacity, 60%, and it's a full-time staff.
No, that's not what the question is saying. The question is saying that the supervisor is to utilize out of 100% of capacity of the supervisor. The supervisor is supposed to use 60% of his time to work the order. Out of 100% of his time is to use 60% to execute the special order. It's not idle. But the company, we are told that the supervisor will use 60% of his time to execute the order. And if that happens, the company will lose contribution of 80,000 naira. That's what examiner is saying here. So the 60,000 naira is the 80,000 naira is relevant.
It's relevant.
Yeah. So I will come here, monthly contribution loss. Kule, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Can we say that is an opportunity cost?
Examiner is, opportunity will also come in form of a contribution loss. And because of the fact that examiner, of course, examiner has mentioned to you in the question that the company will lose contribution. It was specific in the question. Monthly contribution, it is management ascertained that the business will suffer a monthly contribution of 80, that's contribution loss. So instead of calling it opportunity cost, call it monthly contribution loss. Okay. So 80,000 multiplied by 2 months. So please, you can see in this question, examiner, in the first paragraph, you have been told that this contract will take 2 months to execute. Some average students will not pay a particular attention to that information. All they will be doing is just be picking numbers. Even though what you may think that you are doing the right thing, not knowing that you have omitted a vital information. And that's why it is important, as you are reading the paragraph, each paragraph, it's possible you just underline the variables, the key variables that you are looking for. So because if you are told that monthly contribution, it means that the company will suffer that contribution based on the number of months, based on the number of period for the contract, which is 2 months. So here is 160,000 naira. Next item. The supervisor is equally to be paid a monthly bonus of 10,000 naira because of the additional effort needed to achieve on-time delivery. Bonus of 10,000 naira. Is it relevant or irrelevant? Bonus of 10,000, relevant or irrelevant?
It's relevant, sir.
Why is it relevant?
Because the effort is going to add to achieve a on-time delivery.
You are correct. It is relevant. So I would then call me a bonus. 10,000 naira per month for the next 2 months. That's 20,000 naira. Next item. The last paragraph. At present, monthly maintenance cost is 25,000 naira, while that of administration is 20,000 naira. If the order is accepted, the two costs will increase to 35,000 naira and 28,000 naira respectively. If you know the answer, let me know. How do we trade this information? Talk to me. Raise your hand. Yes, Kunle, you raise your hand.
Yes, sir. The costs are incremental fixed cost. Because the utilization, or I mean, the acceptance of that order would increase the present maintenance cost from 25,000 to 35,000, which is a difference of 10,000. That 10,000 is an incremental fixed cost, and the administration cost, which is 20,000, would increase to 28,000. The 8,000 is an incremental fixed cost.
All right, you are correct. So I would then say incremental costs. Incremental costs are costs that change between alternatives. So yes, we have maintenance. We are told that maintenance costs will increase to 35,000 naira from 25,000. So there is an increment of 10,000 naira. The 35,000 naira is not relevant. The 25,000 naira is not relevant. What has changed in maintenance cost? It is the change that we are going to consider, because incremental costs are costs that change between alternative as a result of the decision taking. So maintenance cost has increased from 25,000 naira to 35,000 naira. So you multiply with 2 months. Okay, that's a 20,000 naira. Administration. Also, admin expenses has increased to 28,000 from 20,000. Multiply by 2 months. So here will be the difference of 8,000 naira multiplied by 2. That's 16,000. Let's go back to the question. So that's all. That's all. So add up everything. What do you get? What do you get? What's the total?
540.
540,000. 540,000. This represents the minimum price to quote for the special order. So at this point, you need to state all your assumptions. You need to state your assumptions. So let me see. Let me show you. Get out. Tife, talk to me. Tife.
Sir, please, I want to confirm.
Yep.
So are we to be multiplying all this we are multiplying by any month they give us in the question? Well, if they give us for like 12 months, we have to multiply anything we get by 12 months.
Yes, the period of the contract is for 2 months. So, and that's why you have to consider that as well. That's why we are multiplying with 2 months. Okay? If it's for 3 months, you multiply with 3 months. So, you know, the scenario question differ by scenarios. So it depends on the scenario given to you. Not that you are going to stick your mind, or you think that, okay, at all time you have to multiply with activity level. If you are not given the period of the contract, there is no need for you to do that. So it depending on the scenario of the question. Okay? Okay,
sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So like I said, now that we have completed the question, you need to, that's one side of the question. You need to state your assumption. Number B says you should state your assumptions. So I'm looking for, I want to open a material where I can quickly go through the assumptions together so that we can move to the next one. Stop sharing. Let's see. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you need to state your assumptions. As you can see, number B, examiner is asking you to state your assumptions. The reason why you include some figures and ignore the others. So the calculation above is based on the following assumption. Number one, the first item we had in the question is idle facility. So the net book value of the idle facility of 2 million naira is an historical cost and therefore not relevant to the calculation. The only relevant cost associated with the idle facility is the loss in value or reduction in value of 200,000 naira, representing the difference between between 1.2 million and then 1 million naira of the market value. Okay, so that is your explanation on the idle facility. The second item we have in the question is material ABC. So the cost of material ABC of 150,000 naira bought 4 years ago is a sunk cost and therefore irrelevant. The alternative cost of material ABC of 60,000 naira is relevant and then included in the calculation. That's our assumption. Number 3, casual workers. The casual workers are directly involved in the production of the special order. Hence, labor cost of 80,000 naira per month is relevant. Number 4, supervisor's salary. The supervisor's salary of 40,000 naira per month is irrelevant because irrespective of the decision taken on the special order, the salary will be paid. However, the company monthly contribution loss of 80,000 naira and bonus of 10,000 naira to ensure on-time delivery are relevant costs and therefore included in the contracts. Number 5, incremental costs. The monthly maintenance and administration costs of 25,000 naira and 20,000 naira respectively are irrelevant. Only the incremental cost of 10,000 naira and 8,000 naira per month for maintenance and administration costs are relevant to the calculation. So these are our assumptions. These are our assumptions to number B of the question. So at this point, let's move to the next illustration. Okay. All right. So let's go to illustration number 2. Bosins Limited. Who is there to help us?
Boston Limited has capacity to produce 16,000 units per month, but current plans show monthly production and sale of 10,000 units at 15 naira each. Cost per unit are as follows: direct material at 5 naira, direct
Leave that
labor
one.
at 10.
Required.
Should the company accept a special order for 4,000 units at 10 naira per unit? What is the maximum price the company should be willing to pay to an outside supplier who is interested in manufacturing this product? What would be the effect on the monthly contribution margin if the sale price was reduced to 40 naira, resulting in a 10% increase in sales volume?
Thank you very much, Joluwani. Appreciate. So this is another scenario in relation to special order. From the requirement, you can see from requirement number 1, you are asked whether the company should accept a special order for 4,000 units at 10 naira per unit. So you can see special order. So what this simply means is that what you are supposed to do is to compare. Examiner has already given you the special order and the price of the 4,000 units per unit, 10 naira per 4,000 units. So that will be the sales from the special order. So you are going to compare this with the relevant cost of making the special order. So at the end of the day, if the special order produce additional profit to the organization, then the order should be accepted. If not, the order should be rejected. So let me stop sharing this and move to the working notes. Okay. Bolsing Limited. I hope this space will occupy. So I will then say number one, requirement number one, acceptance or rejection of a special order to produce 4,000 units. Okay. So Naira. The first item will be the sales value based on from our formats. Remember what I told you. Once you are given selling price for the special order or you are given sales value for the special order, so you need to compare the sales value versus relevant cost of making the order. Your focus is on the special order. Anything that is not related to the special order should not be considered. So you want to produce 4,000 units for the special order. So you multiply with 10 naira. So that's 40,000 naira. Then you need to compare this with relevant costs of making the 4,000 units. You then go back to the question. There is direct material of 5 naira. Therefore, I will say direct material 4,000 units multiplied by 5 naira, which is 20,000. Then we also have direct labor of 3 naira. Direct labor 4,000 units multiplied by 3 naira, which is 12,000. Next item, we have variable factory overhead, 75 kobo. Variable factory overhead, 4,000 units multiplied by 75 kobo. So that's 3,000 naira, I think. Then go back to the question. We also have fixed factory overhead, 1 naira 50 kobo. The fixed factory overhead is irrelevant. We ignore because whether you execute the special order or not, the company must incur the fixed factory overhead. The next item is variable selling expenses. Variable selling expenses is a relevant cost. It's relevant. However, you need to consider specific to this question. There is no information that indicates that the company will incur selling expenses on the special order. Therefore, there is no point including the variable selling expenses. However, whether you include variable selling expenses on this special order or you do not include it, you have to state your assumption. Number one, based on the scenario in this question, the variable selling expenses, even though it's relevant, we are not going to include it because there's no indication in the question that shows that the company will incur selling expense. This company is not selling the special order. We are not told that the company will incur selling expenses. So if you think that the company will also incur selling expenses, what is important is that you have to state your assumption because variable selling expenses is relevant. Now, so in this question, I will ignore it. To me, it's not relevant. It's not specific to the question. to the special order, rather. So fixed administrative expenses, that is irrelevant. So whether you execute the special order or not, the company will incur that. Therefore, I'm done with that. So I will add up everything. This is 35,000 naira. Minus 40, 5,000 naira profit. So here is profit, additional profits of 5,000 naira. So examiner is asking you, should the company accept a special order for 4,000 units at 10 naira? Yes. So I would then say, Bosin Limited should accept the special order to produce 4,000 units in order to earn additional profits of 5,000 naira. That's our decision. So that's that. Yes, before we move to requirement number 2, do you have any question on this, on our solution so far on this question? Any concern? If none, let's move on. Number 2 requirements. What is the maximum price the company should be willing to pay to an outside supplier who is interested in manufacturing these products? Examiner is asking you, what is the maximum price the company is willing to pay to an outside supplier? Of course, you cannot pay more than what it will cost you to produce. It will cost the company 35,000 naira, which is 8 naira 75 kobo per unit. So anything above that, the company will not accept it. Therefore, requirement number 2, I would then say the maximum price. Let me go back to what's the maximum price the company should be willing to pay. So I would then say the maximum price that Bosin Limited will be willing and ready to pay to an outside supplier is 8 naira 75 kobo. Is 8 naira 75 kobo as shown in the calculation below. Okay? So you have to demonstrate that. I will then come here, maximum price. All right? The first item is direct material, which is 5 naira. Direct labor, 3 naira. Variable factory overhead, 75 kobo. When you add it up, 8 naira 75 kobo is the maximum price that the company will pay. So we have answered requirement number 2. Fully talk to me.
Hello, sir.
Talk to me.
Yes, sir. So the requirement number 2 says that the maximum price the company should be willing to pay to an outside supplier for the product how then do we decide whether the price should be given per unit or the total price, which is 35,000? How do we decide, since it didn't mention in that requirement that we should state the answer in unit or, the total price? I don't know if you get my question, sir.
I get your question. Whether you do it per unit, whether you do it in absolute naira, it's still the same thing. Okay, whether you quote 35,000 naira, which is total, isn't it? Or you say it's 8 naira 75 kobo per unit, it's still the same thing.
Okay,
You
sir.
get it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
When you multiply 8 naira 75 kobo multiplied by 4,000 units, we give you 35,000 naira, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So whichever way you do it, you are still saying the same thing.
All
All
right.
right. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So number 3 requirements. What will be the effects on the monthly contribution margin if the sales price was reduced to 14 naira, resulting in a 10% increase in sales volume? So examiner wants you to make an adjustment to your calculation. First thing first, before you make any adjustments, you need to calculate, because examiner has mentioned monthly contribution margin. So examiner has mentioned contribution margin. Therefore, you must understand what is the contribution margin as of today. What is the monthly contribution margin presently? Then, if you make the adjustments, you reduce your selling price to 14 naira, then you increase sales volume by 10%, then what will also be the contribution margin? Therefore, the difference between the two contribution margins will show the effect on the, will show you the impact on the company's, on the company's contribution, okay? So at this point, so we are going to prepare two tables, one for the current situation, the current position, then the second one for the revised position on the contribution margin. Okay, so let's quickly do that. Number 3, requirement number 3A, current contribution margin. Now, in this particular requirement number 3, examiner is specific about the company, not the special order. You can see nothing is mentioned about special order. This particular requirement is based on the company, not on the special order. Therefore, I will go back to the question. I want to determine contribution margin. So I will start from sales. The sales units for this company is 10,000. 10,000 units is what the company is being sold at 15 naira. The current selling price is 15 naira. The current sales unit is 10,000. Therefore, I would then say sales equal to 10,000 units multiplied by 15 naira, which is 150,000 naira. Then we compare this with relevant cost. So we have direct material, 10,000 units multiplied by 5 naira, which is 50,000. We have direct labor, 10,000 units multiplied by 3 naira, 30,000 naira. We have variable, factory overhead, 10,000 units multiplied by 75 kobo, 7,500. Go back to the question. We also have variable selling expenses. So variable selling expenses 10,000 multiplied by 25 kobo, 2,500. What else? The fixed admin, the fixed factory overhead are not relevant. You ignore them. So add it up. What do you have? That should be 90,000.
90,000.
Thank you, Kunle. 90,000. So 90,000 minus 150,000 will give us 60,000. So that's the current contribution margin. Then the revised contribution margin. Number 3B. Okay. Revised contribution margin. Right. So sales value. The current sales value is 10,000 units. You are now told that the sales value will increase by, the sales volume will increase by 10%. So 10% of this 10,000 units is 100%. So 10% increase on this will be, that will be 110%. 110% is the same thing as 1.1. Then multiply by selling price. We are told that selling price will reduce to 14 naira. So multiply by 14 naira. So what do you get? What do you get? 11,000 multiplied by 14 naira.
154,000.
154,000.
154,000.
Thank you. 154,000. Then we compare this with relevant costs. Direct material, which is 10,000 multiplied by 1.1, that's 11,000 units. So multiply by 5 naira. Amarachi, talk to me.
Sorry, sir, for taking us back a little of that 1.1. Please, can you come back again and explain that 1.1?
Yes, look at when you say for example, this is what I'm saying. 10,000 units. We are told that according to the question, we are told that the sales volume will increase by 10%. The current sales volume is 10,000 units. So this 10,000 units is the 100%. Okay? So you are now told that the 10,000 unit will increase by 10%. So what's 10% of 10,000? 10% of 10,000 will give you will give you
1,000.
that will give you 1,000, right? So this 1,000 is 10%. Do you get? So 100 plus 10, that will be 110%. So 110 divided by 100, that will give you 1.1. Do you understand now, Amara?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So 110% divided by 100 will give you 1.1. Okay? So if you are told that it will increase by 5%, so that will be 1.05. If you are told it will increase by 20%, that will be 1.2. If you are told it will increase by 50%, that will be 1.5. Okay? The 1 is the 100%. The points that follow is the increments. Then we also have direct labor, which is 11,000 multiplied by 3 naira, which is 33,000. Then we also have variable factory overhead, 11,000 units multiplied by 75 kobo. What do you have there?
8,250.
8,250. Then we also have variable selling expenses, 11,000 units multiplied by 25 kobo,
2,750.
2,750. Thank you. So add it up.
99,000.
99,000 minus 154,000.
55.
That's 55,000. So as you can see, the revised contribution is 55,000. The current contribution margin is 60,000. So what that means is that if sales volume increase by 10% and selling price reduced to 14 naira, the company will lose contribution of 5,000 naira. That's the implication. That's what the examiner wants you to determine. Therefore, I would then say the company will lose contribution of 5,000 naira. That is 60,000 minus 55,000. If selling price is reduced to 14 naira and sales volume is increased by 10%. That's the answer. And that's end of the question. Now, remember I told you the other time that in the requirement number 1, whether you consider variable selling expenses or you ignore variable selling expenses, you are supposed to state your assumption. So I forgot to put it there. So you have to indicate that. So just let's look for somewhere to just put it. I can say, let me look at, okay. Let me just manage it somewhere here. Notes. It is assumed that the company will not incur variable selling expenses on the special order. So if you have included the variable selling expenses, your assumption should be that you're also going to state is that it is assumed that the company will incur variable selling expenses. But when you look at the scenario of the question, you will notice that there is nothing that indicates that the company will incur variable selling expenses, and that's why we ignore it. Okay? That's that. Okay, so that's end of the question. So let me know if you have any question for me so that I can switch to the next one. Okay. Somebody, I think I received some. That's a 10% increase in sales volume. Okay, correct. Please, how do we get? Somebody has already answered that. Okay. Yes, Kunle, talk to me.
Okay, sir. I don't know if this is relevant, but then I want to observe something that what they said was um what would be the effect of the monthly contribution margin if the sales price was reduced to 14, resulting to in a 10% increase in sales volume? That's why my understanding is since they are talking about the sales volume and then the relevant costs relates to production, why are we also increasing the quantity, I mean, produced, since it's supposed to only affect the sales volume?
No, it is assumed that what is produced, look at the scenario in the question. When you look at the first paragraph, examiner has told you that Bosin Limited has capacity to produce 16,000 units per month, but current plans shows monthly production and sales. Do you get monthly production and sales? So what they are producing is what they are selling. That's the implication. Do you get, Kunle?
I do, sir.
So what they are producing is what they are selling. So the unit produced, that's why you are seeing that the units produced is the same thing as units being sold. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Sean, you also raised and talk to me.
Yeah, good evening,
Good
sir.
evening.
Yes, sir. So, like you said that is for the second requirement. You said that we should not consider that you are not that for that is for variable selling expenses. You said that based on the scenario that it does not show that we're going to consider it. So I'm not like just like the other one, direct material, direct labor, and the rest that we're not giving a new, like for that special order, abi? I'm not like, what if nothing has changed? Do they need to still give us something concerning the variable selling expenses?
Please take that question again.
Okay, maybe it
Sean,
was
take
too
it again.
long. Okay. I'm just talking about when you talked about that variable selling expenses.
Yeah.
You're like, you gave us two scenarios that are based on our assumption that
That is not related, this variable selling expenses is not related to the special order based on
yes,
the
because
scenario in
of
this question.
yeah,
Yeah.
because nothing was mentioned about it for I think is it for question 2?
Requirement number 2.
Yeah. So I'm not like if nothing has changed, do they need to still mention something about variable expenses?
No, because the fact that all those figures they have quoted in the table, they are for the company. Okay, all those cost items that make up 11 naira 50 kobo is meant for the company. If the company wants to produce, those are the costs that they are going to incur. However, the company also wants to produce the 4,000 unit for the special order. It's the same cost per unit that the company will incur for the normal operation, they are going to incur for the special order. Do you get? So the variable selling expenses, because it's not, there's no indication that the company will incur selling expenses for this special order for 4,000 units. And that's why we ignore it. I'm not saying that even if you consider, because the variable selling expenses is a relevant cost. If you think it is the company will incur for the purpose of this 4,000 unit, then you include it, then you state your assumption. All right. So the cost you are seeing in the table is meant for the organization itself. It's meant for bossing. Yes, Sean, go ahead. Sean, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's still the same thing, but I'm trying to like just follow the explanation you've given. I'm just thinking if that is for the company, I'm thinking the same thing should apply to the special order.
Yeah, I've already told you what you need to do.
Okay.
Like I said, if you think that the company will incur selling expenses See, look at the scenario. Should the company accept a special order for 4,000 units at 10,000 naira? You need to ask yourself, is the company going to incur selling expenses for this 4,000 units of a special order? If you think it is the company will incur it, then you include it. If you think the company will not include it, you ignore. Whichever one, whether you include or you did not include, you have to state your assumption. That's the point,
Okay.
because
Oh, yes,
selling
okay.
because selling expenses is a relevant cost. Yes, Yusuf.
All right, sir. I just want to like try and give my own explanation for these variable selling expenses.
Okay.
Maybe to help the class.
Yeah, go
So
ahead, please.
I'm thinking that before for a special order to happen, another company would specifically require us to make that special order. So it's not like after we produce it, we are still going to be advertising or doing something like for us to sell it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. It makes good sense. And that's the point. And that's the basis of our assumption. That's why we did not include it. You are not incurring any selling expenses for you to produce the 4,000 units. Yeah. Okay then.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. So let's move to let's move to short-term decisions. Wow, time is fast spent. Okay. Okay, let's go through this question. Let's go through this question. This illustration number 3. Then we should have some minutes to explain, to introduce you to optimal product mix. All right. So let's go to illustration number 3. Somebody should help us.
I can't hear him.
Fudeto Limited is a pharmaceutical company operating from Enugu, Nigeria. Recently, the company received an order from Enyimba Football Club to produce a technological device for the treatment of brain injury. The contract is expected to be completed in 1 year's time at a contract price of 3 million naira. Currently, the company has spent 400,000 on research and development and an additional cost of 250,000 on market survey to promote the device to other football clubs in Nigeria. The following additional information relates to the contract. Materials. The contract will require materials Zinco. The materials was bought 2 years ago at a cost of 600,000 naira. The material is toxic, and if not used for the contract, it must be disposed of at a cost of 50,000. Labor. Skilled labor is hard to recruit in the labor market. In the recent management meeting, the sales manager suggested that 2 workers from production department on a current wage of 400,000 can be transferred to execute the order. The production manager does not buy the idea because he believes that transferring 2 of the existing staff to execute the contract will lower productivity. The management resolved that the staff should be transferred since the company is finding it difficult to recruit additional staff. However, if this happens, the management believes that sales will drop by 1.5 million at a marginal cost of 1 million naira. Production overhead. The fixed production overhead absorbed related to labor and would amount to 200,000. Sir, please. Research and development staff. It has been concluded that when the work on this contract is completed, the research and development department will be shut down. The R&D staff cost for the year includes wages of 600,000 and redundancy and severance pay of 150,000 naira now, or 350,000 in 1 year's time. Equipment. The contract utilities a special equipment which cost 180,000 naira 3 years ago. It has a residual value of 30,000 in another 2 years and a current disposal value of 80,000 naira. If the equipment is used in the contract, it is estimated that the disposal value in a year's time will be 60,000 naira. Share of general building services. The contract is charged with 350,000 naira per annum to cover general building expenses. The building space is currently being used for the contract. However, a neighboring business has approached Scudeto Limited to lease the space for 1 year at a consideration of 70,000 naira. Required. Advise the CEO of Scudeto Limited if the contract should be accepted. State any assumptions made in your calculation. Note, ignore the time value of money.
Thank you very much, Tiffen. That is the question. Examiner is asking you to advise the CEO of Scudeto Limited if the contract should be accepted. State any assumption made in your calculation. So this is acceptance or rejection of a special order. So you can see in this question, from the first paragraph, examiner has given to you contract price of 3 million naira. Contract price is just like revenue, it's a cash inflow. So without wasting time, let's quickly solve this question so that we can progress to the next one. Okay. So Scudeto Limited. Examiner is asking us whether the company should accept the order. Therefore, I would then say acceptance or rejection of a special order. Or you can say incremental analysis for the special order. Now, so let's start from the beginning. Let's go back to the question together. So Scudeto Limited is a pharmaceutical company operating from Elimbu, Nigeria. Recently, the company received an order from Enyimba Football Club to produce a technological device for the treatment of groin injury. The contract is expected to be completed in 1 year's time at a contract price of 3 million naira. So the cash inflow from this contract is 3 million. So I will say contract price. So contract price is just like revenue. So 3 million. Next, paragraph 2. Currently, the company has spent 400,000 naira on research and development, an additional cost of 250,000 naira on market survey to promote the device to other football clubs in Nigeria. Now, the 400,000 naira and then 250,000 naira, are they relevant or irrelevant? Who will help us? Kunle, talk to us.
They are irrelevant, sir.
Why?
Sunk cost.
They are sunk costs. Okay, then. So you ignore. They are not relevant because examiner is very clear from the question. Are spent, the company has spent. So they are past costs, sunk costs, and therefore irrelevant. The following additional information relates to the contracts. Material. The contract will require material zinco. This material was bought 2 years ago at a cost of 600,000 naira. That 600,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Relevant or irrelevant, 600,000 naira? Abdulatif is saying irrelevant. Some cost, irrelevant. Congress is saying irrelevant, some cost. Okay, so it is not relevant. Truly, the 600,000 naira of material zinco bought 2 years ago is irrelevant. The material is toxic, and if not used for the contract, it must be disposed of at a cost of 50,000 naira. That 50,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Kunle, talk to us.
Yeah, it's relevant. It's a savings.
It's a saving. Thank you. So let's go and post. So I would then say material disposal. Material disposal.
I can't hear him anymore.
You can't hear me. I can hear you. Maybe it's from your end. Abdulatif.
Sir.
I can hear you. You said you can't hear me, but I can hear you.
The network just logged me out, logged me in back now.
Yeah, sorry. So this is a saving. 50,000 naira will be on the credit side. Next one, labor. Skilled labor is how to recruit in the labor market. In the recent management meeting, the sales manager suggested that 2 workers from production department on a current wage of 400,000 naira can be transferred to execute the order. The production manager does not buy the idea because he believes that transferring 2 of the assisting staff to execute the contract will lower productivity.
Hello, sir. Jacket 50K.
No. It's a savings. Leave it like that. When we get to where we are going to consider cost, you will see the way we treat it. It's on the credit side.
Okay, sir.
We are going to have a debit entry. So the management resolved that the staff should be transferred since the company is finding it difficult to recruit additional staff. However, if this happens, the management believes that sales will drop by 1.5 million naira at a marginal cost of 1 million naira. Now, to start with, the current wage of 400,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Relevant or irrelevant? The 400,000 naira labor cost for the R&D.
Irrelevant, sir.
Is it relevant or irrelevant?
It's not relevant.
Why is it not relevant?
Committed cost. It's a committed cost.
It's a committed cost. Okay. Do you think so? Do you think so? Committed costs are costs that we incur irrespective of the decision taking. For example, leases.
Yes, sir.
When you have lease agreements, the dictates of the lease agreements is binding on the both parties. So that whatever cost you have in the lease agreement will not change. So that is an example of lease is an example of a committed cost. We are talking about labor cost in this case. So labor cost is not a committed cost. Yes.
This is relevant because they are paid wages.
They are paid wages. See, because of time, there's something you need to understand. There's something all of you should understand. Examiner specifically mentioned this is wage. This is where you are told current wage. There is difference between wage and salary. Wages and salary, they are different. Wages and salary are different. So when you are paying somebody wages, those are people that are directly involved. Just like you can see, examiner even mentioned workers. Okay, it's different from people that are on a monthly salary. Monthly salary is fixed. The wage is not fixed. So there's difference between wages and salary. So the 400,000 naira is relevant because examiner is very clear from the question. You are told that they are paid on wages. It is wages, not salary. So the 400,000 naira, we are going to account for it. So again, of course, everything you have to state to your assumption. So I will come here labor cost. R&D labor. So these wages is just like direct labor cost, because those are the people that were directly involved in the contracts. R&D labor cost, 400,000, put it on the debit side. Next item. Now, again, from the same paragraph, the
There are two
management is,
workers.
pardon?
There are two workers on wages.
All of them are paying the same, the total amount of 400,000.
Okay.
That 400,000 is meant for the two of them. If examiner has mentioned per worker, so you would have said, okay, 400,000 multiplied by 2. But the examiner told you that sales manager suggested that 2 workers from the production department on the current wage of 400,000 can be transferred. So if you have been told that per worker, so you could have multiplied it by 2. Okay? All right. So the management resolved that the staff should be transferred since the company is finding it difficult to recruit additional staff. However, if this happens, the management believes that sales will drop by 1,500,000 naira at a marginal cost of 1 million naira. So how do we treat this information? How do we treat the information? Yes? Do you know it? How do we treat the information? Anyway, because of time, you can see here that examiner has told you that sales will drop by 1.5 million naira at a marginal cost of 1 million. So that means you need to determine contribution. You have been given sales, you're also given marginal. Marginal cost is the same thing as variable cost or direct cost. So when you less 1.5 from 1 million naira, that's contribution loss of 500,000. So let's go and put it there. Contribution loss of 1.5 million minus 1 million. That's 500,000 naira. Okay. Next item. Let me adjust this. Okay. The next one. Production overhead. The fixed production overhead absorbed related to labor and would amount to 200,000 naira. So fixed production overhead, is it relevant or irrelevant? Fixed production overhead.
Not relevant
Why?
because it's fixed, sir.
Because it's fixed. Okay, it is true that it is not relevant, but it's not because it is fixed. It is irrelevant because whether the company execute this contract or not, irrespective of the decision taken on the contracts, the fixed production overhead will be incurred. So therefore, it is not relevant. So you ignore. Next item, R&D staff. Okay, it has been concluded that when the work on this contract is completed, the R&D department will be shut down. The R&D staff costs for the year include wages of 600,000 naira. So that wages of 600,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? Yeah. Wages of 600,000 for R&D staff, relevant or irrelevant? Kunle said it's relevant. Yes, because it's wages. It's wages.
It's irrelevant, sir.
Pardon?
It's in the past. It's in the past.
It's in the past. It's not in the past. Look at, you are told that it has been concluded that when the work on this contract is completed, the R&D department will be shut down. The R&D staff cost for the year includes wages of 600,000. It's not a past cost.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will come here. R&D staff cost 600,000. Had it been there, we were told salary, we just ignore it. It's irrelevant, but because it's wages, so you have to consider it. It's a direct cost. Next item. Yes, we are still on the same paragraph. You are now told again that redundancy and severance pay of 150,000 naira now or 350,000 naira in 1 year's time, meaning that if this R&D department is shut down now, the company will pay a redundancy pay of 150,000 naira. However, if the department is shut down in one year's time, the redundancy pay will increase to 350,000 naira. How do we treat this information? If you know it, raise your hand. How do we treat the information? Redundancy pay. How do we treat it? Anyway, because of time, of course, the company would have incurred only 150,000 naira if the department is shut down now as severance pay. But because of this contract, they have to extend it for additional 1 year. They have to continue with the department until after 1 year because of the contracts, and which make the redundancy and severance pay to increase to 350,000. Therefore, the only relevant cost associated with this contract will then be 200,000. So I would then say redundancy and severance. I hope this play will occupy. So 350,000 minus 150,000. That's 200,000 naira. So that's the treatment of that. Next item, equipment. The contract utilizes a special equipment which cost 180,000 naira 3 years ago. It has a residual value of 30,000 naira in another 2 years. So that 180,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant? 180,000, relevant or irrelevant for the machine? Sorry, for the equipment. Yes, relevant or irrelevant?
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. So, okay, the contract utilizes a special equipment which cost 180,000 naira 3 years ago. So that 180,000 naira is a past cost, it's a sunk cost, and therefore irrelevant. So it has a residual value of 30,000 naira in another 2 years and a current disposal value of 80,000 naira. If the equipment is used in the contract, it is estimated that the disposal value in a year's time will be 60,000. We have 3 different disposal value here. How do we treat this information? If you know it, please raise your hand. How do we treat the information? Yep. How do we treat it? Okay. Let me come in because of time. Yes. We are told that the machine. Okay, Kunle, go ahead.
Okay, sir. The only relevant cost in the disposal value will be the difference between the current disposal value and the disposal value in 2 years' time, which is 20,000 naira.
Okay, the difference between 80,000 and then 60,000. So what happened to
Yes.
the residual value, the scrap value of 30,000 in another 2 years? How do we treat that?
In my opinion, it's irrelevant.
Irrelevant, you are correct. So let's move on. So I would then say disposal value. Loss in value. So it will not be because of this project. Ordinarily, if the company wants to dispose of the equipment, they will earn 80,000 naira. But because they are going to use the machine use the equipment for the contracts, therefore the value has dropped to 60,000. What is the actual cost? I mean, what actual utilization on the machine, on the equipment? So I would then say reduction in value. Equipment. Let me put equipment. Reduction in value. Let me manage this one. 80,000 minus 60,000, which is 20,000. Okay, then. What else? The last paragraph. Share of general building services. The contract is charged with 350,000 naira per annum to cover general building expenses. So this 350,000 naira, is it relevant or irrelevant?
It's relevant.
Relevant or is it relevant or irrelevant?
It's relevant. It's attributable to the contract.
It's attributable to the contract. Okay. I think Kunle is also raising hand. Kunle, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. It's relevant, sir.
It's relevant. Why is it relevant? Yeah, now.
Sorry, sir. I think it's irrelevant. It's apportionment.
It's an apportionment. The 350,000 is an apportionment. Why? Okay, you have already said it's an apportionment. Yes, Abdulateef, I just saw your comments. You said that it is relevant. Why do you think it's relevant? Why do you think the 350,000 general building service?
Okay, sir. Without the contract, the cost will not come up. It is all because of the contract that it will. So maybe you will call it unavoidable. What is it that you call it?
No.
So,
No, the 350,000 is irrelevant. Look at the scenario. From the heading, look at what the examiner has told you, share of general building service is an apportionment. Building service is the building service not specific to the contracts. Whether you execute the contract or not, the company must pay for the building services. So the 350,000 naira is irrelevant. Look at the statement. The contract is charged with 350,000 naira per annum to cover general building expenses. Look at, just put a scenario, for example, in your own office. So maybe you incur building service service costs that you incur for running the building in your office. So if you now have a contract, will you say because of that contract you are incurring the service costs on the building of your office? So it's not specific to the contract. It's an apportionment. Therefore, it's the 350,000 naira is irrelevant. You ignore it. Okay. So the building space is currently being used for the contracts. Okay. However, a neighboring business has approached Scudetto Limited to lease the space for 1 year at a consideration of 70,000. This 70,000, is it relevant or irrelevant? 70,000, relevant or irrelevant? Kunle, talk to us.
It's relevant, sir.
Why?
I think it represents a savings to the business. The leasing of that space represents a savings of 70,000 naira to the business.
Okay, it's true that the 70,000 naira is relevant, but it's not a saving. It's an opportunity cost. It's an opportunity cost. Look at the scenario. You are told that the building space is currently being used for the contracts. Meanwhile, there's a neighboring business that has approached the company to lease the space for 1 year. They can't collect the 70,000 naira from the neighboring business. That 70,000 naira will not be earned. Why are they losing the 70,000 naira? It's because of the contracts. That is what is called opportunity cost. The benefit forgone. The benefit of 70,000 naira that would have accrued to this company is lost because of the contract. Therefore, it should be part of the cost of the contract. So I would then say 70,000 opportunity cost. Let me write that. General building, is it general building? General building services. Hope that place will occupy it. General Building services. Opportunity cost. $70,000. It's a benefit forgone as a result of undertaking the contracts. The company cannot earn the 70,000, therefore it should be part of the cost of the contract. So what else? That's all. Oh yeah, let's add up everything together. Add up everything. What do you have there? 900, 1.5, 1.790, 1.790, 1 million.
1,790,000.
790,000. That's total relevant cost. So less this 350. So what do you have? What do you have?
1,260,000.
1,260,000. That's the profit the company will earn on the contracts. That's the profit the company will earn on the contracts. Look at the solution. The solution is not even up to half a page, but look at the scenario. In any case, so that's end of the question. There's no way you are going to earn your full mark. If you stop here, you are expected to state all your assumptions. Even though in the question, the examiner is also asking you to do that you should state any assumption made in your calculation. Ignore time value of money, whatever. So you are supposed to state your assumptions. You are supposed to state your assumptions. So let me quickly switch. Let me see. Let me stop sharing this. Let me see, where is that? Okay, I think it's this one. Yeah. So let's quickly go through I just want to run you through in the next 5 minutes or less. Let me run you through what's it called? The assumptions. So I don't want to waste time. Who is that person? Okay, that's it. So let me run you through. Yes, of course. Examiner is asking you to advise. So your advice should be that the contract to produce the technological device should be accepted, considering the additional profits of 1,260,000 naira. So that's your advice to the CEO of Scudetto Limited. So the second part of the requirement is that you should state your assumption. Therefore, you say that the underlying assumptions to the above calculation are stated below, or you can say that the calculation above is based on the following assumption. Number one, research and development and market survey costs. So you match the two of them together since they are past costs. So the cost of R&D and market survey of 400,000 naira and 250,000 naira respectively are sunk costs and therefore not relevant to the calculation. Number two, we have material zinco. So the cost of material zinco of 600,000 naira bought 2 years ago is a sunk cost and not relevant. However, the only relevant cash flow associated with the contract is a saving of 50,000 naira arising from the disposal of the toxic material. Okay, that's our assumption on material zinco. Number three, labor cost. The current wage bill of 400,000 naira for the production department staff is relevant because the workers will work on the contract and must be paid. In addition, the contribution loss of 500,000 naira, which the company will suffer for diverting labor, is a relevant cost. Okay, so you can also say that in addition, the contribution loss of 500,000 naira, that is 1.5 million minus 1 million naira. Then you close your brackets. Then you continue. The number four, production overheads. This will be incurred irrespective of the decision taken on the contract. Therefore, the fixed production overhead of 200,000 naira is irrelevant. Ignore. Number 5, research and development staff. The staff wage of 600,000 naira is relevant. The cost will be saved if the contract did not go ahead. The redundancy and the severance pay of 350,000 naira and 150,000 naira are irrelevant. Only the incremental cost of 200,000, that is the difference between 250 and 150,000 naira, is relevant. Number 6, equipment. The original cost of the equipment of 180,000 naira 3 years ago is a sunk cost and therefore not relevant to the calculation. The only relevant cost associated with the equipment is the loss in value or reduction in value of 20,000 naira, that is 80,000 naira minus 60,000 naira. Number 7, share of general building services. The building overhead charges of 350,000 naira per annum is irrelevant because it's an apportionment. However, an opportunity cost of 70,000 naira for lease renter is attributable to the contract. So that's our assumption. That's end of the question. That's end of the question. That's our assumption. So with this, you can be able to earn your full mark. You can be able to earn your full mark. If you do only the calculation without the assumptions, there is no way examiner will give you. In fact, you can't even earn up to half of the mark associated with the question. Examiner can never give to you half of the mark if you do only the calculation without the assumptions. Assumption carries more mark than the calculation. In any given question, assumptions will carry more mark because the assumption is showing that you know what you are. Just explain how you have arrived at your figures. That's what the examiner is asking you. So if you do only calculation without the assumption, you can't earn your full mark. So it's important. And the assumption is not something you are going to fabricate. It's something that is in the question already. Just reframe it and how you treat it. That's all. Bonus mark. All right. So that's the end of the question. Yes. So let me know if you have any question before we move to, this is end of short-term decisions. So we are moving to optimal product mix. We are going to spend the remaining minutes on that. So let me know if you have any question before I switch.